NBA All-Star Weekend has gradually been getting worse since I was a child. I used to love All-Star Weekend. I'd watch it with my dad the entire weekend. I'd stay up all night with him. It was a highlight of the NBA season. It was so fun to watch. You had guys like Kobe and LeBron going at each other, the East versus the West. People played because they wanted to win the All-Star game. There's a clip of Kobe Bryant saying that he went out there trying to win the MVP and trying to win the All-Star game every single time he played in it. And that fire just isn't in the players now. I want to address all of All Star Weekend and not just the All Star game. I personally watched the 3-point contest. I watched Steph versus Sabrina. I watched the dunk contest. I watched off and on of the All Star game. I had it on my other monitor while I played 2K because I didn't care that much. And every time I would watch it, there was no defense being played. It was a little boring to watch. It was exactly like it has been for the last couple of years, except for like 2 or 3 years ago when they added the point total and everybody was trying really hard, especially in that fourth quarter, and it ended up being like a 2 or 3 point win. That season was a good one. Other than that, it hasn't been fun to watch recently. But in order for me to make these accusations, form these opinions, I had to go back and rewatch the celebrity game, the skills challenge, the stuff that I missed, just so I can at least get an idea of what happened instead of seeing the stupid clips on Twitter of Anthony Edwards shooting left hand or Scotty Barnes throwing a backwards shot from half court, or Luka Doncic chucking up a three-fourths court or full court shot in the middle of the All Star game. So I asked you guys to help me formulate some opinions or try and come up with something that can revive the All Star weekend, the All Star game specifically, but mainly just All Star weekend and really bring it back to the glory it was for me, especially as a kid. Maybe some other people didn't feel that growing up in the 2000s, but 2000s to 2010s All Star weekend was such a highlight in my life. I absolutely loved watching it. So let's see what you guys had to say to help me out. So I reached out to all of you guys through my community post on YouTube. I said, considering making a YouTube video about All-Star Weekend, how can we make it better, problems with the game, and what you would add, take away, or do to make it more interesting? We were at the point where people would rather be on vacation than compete in an All-Star Weekend event. How do we change this? And I was mainly just alluding to the fact that, like Jimmy Butler, for example, would rather be in Cabo than being named an All-Star, where if you were to go back 15 years, players would have rather been named an All-Star. I feel like being named an All-Star was a prestigious thing. It's a part of it, it helps you get into the Hall of Fame. It builds your legacy. I thought that, competing in these events and showing your skills off to the world with the best of the best was honorable. And now it's at the point where it doesn't seem like it's very honorable. So I said, here's your question. This is all theoretical. You're Adam Silver. You have to change the All-Star game so it's better next year than it has been for the past 2 years. What would you do to make it better? You could add or subtract an event or events, edit the rules of events, add incentives to make these events more competitive, getting new commentators, so on and so forth. A lot of people were saying, an easy incentive, just like the in-season tournament, is to just pay the players for the game or whatever they compete in. Where I think it's a little bit iffy at that point because a lot of the money is already going to charities. Like you would rather the players play and compete for charity and charitable events and these people that need this money rather than now I'm going to go out there and compete because I can make some money rather than I can help other people make money, if that makes sense. That's just my thought process on it. Like this one, obviously, I have thought of this as well. How do you enforce this? If you're not trying, you cannot be an all-star the following year, plain and simple. How do you enforce that? How do you call somebody out for not trying compared to somebody that is trying, unless it's night and day? And I saw a lot of people were mentioning like Kevin Durant looked like he was trying the most, whereas other players just really didn't care that they were even out there. How do you enforce that? And for the most part, you can't use last year's performance in the All-Star game to then choose who gets into the All-Star game the following year because it's based on your play in the regular season up to the All-Star game or All-Star weekend. So how do you enforce that? That's then saying that last year's play will then determine if you're in the All-Star game the following year rather than your play throughout the regular season in that current season to get into the All-Star game. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the most common one I've seen all over my comments is King of the Court or 1v1 tournament, which obviously I think a lot of us want to see 1v1 tournaments. Jason Tatum mentioned breaking it up into a guards 1v1 tournament, a forwards 1v1 tournament, and a center or big guys 1v1 tournament, which could be a lot of fun. At that point, we get to see some of the players like Steph Curry versus Kyrie Irving that we would want to see go head to head. You could see a LeBron versus a Tatum or a Durant versus a Tatum. You could see Jokic versus Embiid, which I really don't think either of them would care, to be honest, at this point, especially Jokic. And then from there, you can go on to like each of them play each other, and then the best two records then play each other for a champion. I don't know how exactly that would work, but that's an idea. Something else we could add, not to replace the All Star game, but maybe replace like a celebrity game. Because personally, I don't care very much about the celebrity game, but maybe some people do. Some people want the target score to be added back because realistically, we played 1 year. Was it 1 year with the target score, and it was really good. Then the next year was really bad, and then we just got rid of the target score. We didn't even give it like a full like 5 year cycle to see how it really plays out. That could have been kind of fun to keep it back in. Maybe add that back next year and just try it again. Why not? And I'm trying to think like I think the year that we added the target score was the year that Kobe passed. R.I.P. Mamba, and maybe people were playing harder just for that reason because Kobe passed and we added that year. We changed the All Star MVP award to the Kobe and the Gigi award. Maybe people were playing a little bit harder because of that. I mean, that could play a little bit into it. Here, I'm going to read this entire idea because I mean, anything is good at this point. A 16-man 1v1 tournament with 8 from the East, 8 from the West, play to 5, each match half court ones and twos. The winner of each conference bracket will play in the final to 10 points. The winner of this could either play against a new winner of a WNBA tournament or some type of title for All Star champion, separate from the All Star game MVP, and would be represented at the end of the year awards with a trophy and like $500,000 reward. You could also add a 2v2 tournament where each NBA team sends 2 players and the winner of the tournament gets a 3-win boost in the standings. Lastly, you could have a mascot competition. And I think all of these are valid ideas. Really just throwing stuff out there and talking about it is better than just letting it be. I like the 2v2 idea kind of. Each team sends 2 players. I think that could be fun, and maybe instead of a 3-win boost in the standings, because that sometimes doesn't mean a lot, and especially for like tanking teams like the Detroit Pistons who are trying to get that number 1 overall pick, then go and try and win the tournament to get a 3-win boost and possibly lose out on the best chance of the number 1 overall pick. There could be better rewards or incentives for winning the 2v2 tournament, which I think could be a lot of fun. Like, for example, who the Celtics send? They send Tatum and Porzingis? Do they send Tatum and Brown? Like, are people going to strategize big guys? Because somebody has to guard Joel Embiid if they send them. Maxey and Embiid. Who's going to guard Joel Embiid? You're not going to put Jason Tatum on him. Jason Tatum's going to get bullied. So that there's a little bit of like, who is this team going to send? Then or every single fan of each fan base has a little bit of incentive into the All Star game. For like me, a Pistons fan, I have zero incentive in watching the All Star game. I'm not rooting for anybody. Either way, I think the 2v2 tournament, in my opinion, is almost better than the 1v1 tournament. How do you convince these players to play into a 1v1 tournament? And then also, like, if they do lose and they shouldn't have lost, then it's kind of humiliating because at the end of the day, it comes down to you. You can't blame anybody else for a 2v2 tournament. It just could be you're mismatched or something. So maybe that's more apt to happen. Like there's a good, better chance that could happen. Bringing back horse could be a fun one. You could play something like that with a lot of players. I mean, players are trying to just shoot trick shots anyways in the All Star game. So why not just give them a platform where they can literally focus on only trick shots? That could be kind of fun. There was one more idea I saw that I really wanted to talk about, though, and it was pretty much eliminating the All Star game and turning it into a full on like 3v3 tournament or something. Like this one says, do it like the NHL does and have 8 teams of 3 play in a tournament, and the winning team gets 5 million per player, and held goes to charity. That could be kind of fun. You get to mix up players. You could see different players from the East play together. Giannis could play with Tyrese Halliburton and Jaylen Brown, right? A little mixture of players could be kind of fun to see. And maybe players care a little bit more about that because at that point, you don't want to be humiliated. Rather than in the All Star game, you're a team of 12 and you can just blame everybody for not playing defense because nobody cares. But in this one, it's like maybe some player wants to win and the other players don't. You get a little feuding going on because somebody wants to win this 3-on-3 tournament. I don't know. It could be a lot of fun. I think adding like a tournament like that could be fun. You have to add incentives though, because no player's going to go out there and try hard in a tournament ever, anyways. And incentives is crazy for how much money these players already make, and we have to pay them more money to go try harder. I think it's crazy. And this is the last thing I'll chip in about. I kind of liked adding Sabrina to the All-Star weekend. My girlfriend enjoyed it. I think that most people's highlight was Steph versus Sabrina. It was awesome. I think they should incorporate that into the All-Star weekend even more. Go all out with it. Add some WNBA players in the three-point contest. Why not? And this is nothing against WNBA players, what I'm about to say. Like, I want them to go out there and clown these guys. Make them feel bad for not trying. Anthony Edwards is shooting left-handed shots because he doesn't care. Make him go out there and get clowned if they lose to a WNBA player. Maybe it brings more ratings into the WNBA because people see them going out there and kicking butt against these NBA players and making the NBA players look bad. Maybe it does help the WNBA. You get WNBA names out there now. I think it could be a good idea. Incorporate it more. Add WNBA players into the three-point contest as well. Watch the NBA players lose and get mad. Watch NBA players lose in the skills challenge and get upset. Now the women are more skilled than the men. They're pissed. Maybe that's something you do. Maybe a 2v2 tournament and you get one WNBA player and one NBA player. Obviously make the teams a little more fair. You're not going to put Joel Embiid on Sabrina Ionescu, right? But balance them out, balance the teams out, make it a little more fair. That could be fun. Watch a WNBA player cook an NBA player. We want to see it, right? Make these guys feel bad for coming out here and not performing whatsoever. They get paid so much money. They have a crazy long offseason, especially the players that don't make the playoffs or get bounced in the first round. What are you guys complaining about? This is supposed to be legacy building, man. Go out there and compete. Go out there. Like, growing up, I obviously wanted to be in the NBA. I wanted to be an all-star. If that were me out there being able to showcase my skills and be in front of everybody, I'm hyper competitive. I want to win every event. I want to go compete in the three-point contest to win that. And then I want to go win the skills challenge. If I could dunk, I want to go win the dunk contest. Why not? More awards, more trophies. Go do it. Of course, I want the all-star MVP. Of course, I want to win an all-star game. I don't want to be the loser of anything. These guys really don't care if they're winners or losers at all. And I get it's supposed to be a break or whatever. You're in the NBA, bro. Try a bit harder. It's a bit embarrassing. Either way, I didn't mean to get too passionate about it. I just wanted to hop on here, ask you guys to throw me some ideas. Like here, if we add Caitlin Clark into the three-point contest next year, this comment says, also, instead of just Steph and Sabrina, it could be Steph and Clay versus Sabrina and Caitlin Clark, right? That would be a ton of fun. Caitlin Clark is now one of the biggest names in women's basketball, college or WNBA. She's the biggest name in college basketball in general. Put her out there in an all-star weekend, you're going to get a lot of viewership. I'm going to watch it. Anyways, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want more stuff like this, I can obviously make more posts like this. We can talk and be more interactive if you guys like that kind of stuff. But I appreciate all of you, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Adios.